Welcome to the Talkin Kop. My name is Ashley and I'm joined by my friend Kev. Sorry, we're late. We were just catching up on the Leeds equalizer. It is now 2-2 against Chelsea. So where is it? It's at Chelsea. So we were just catching up on that. Little bit of interest going off on the side. So bringing our attention back to the focus that's here on this channel, that is Liverpool Football Club. Kev, I'm going to start the way that I usually do and ask you how you're feeling kind of after the dust has settled on this weekend and sort of the melee that was the end of that game and where it sort of leaves Liverpool and Arne Slot as a whole.
And look, I'm disappointed in the fact that we were 6 minutes away from getting in 3 points against City. And with 6 minutes to go, you find a way to lose it is the ultimate frustration. I think Slot said it in his press conference today. It was interesting because we were within 5 points of Man City to suddenly be 11 points behind them.
Yeah, that was a pretty strong statement that put it into perspective.
That's a gut punch that I didn't need on my lunch break today. But it's like, I suppose, did we deserve? I think we deserved a point out of it on the second half performance. But you get what you deserve in football sometimes. And Man City kept going. They got the look with the deflection onto Haaland for the flick down to Bernardo Silva, got the leveler. But at that point, you've got to have a way to shut up shop. You have to have it in your mindset that, look, no matter what happens, you're not going to lose it. Win it if you can, but don't lose it, because a point is a point at this stage of the season, and you take it. But when you contrive another way to lose it in injury time, it just adds to the fucking frustration. The shit that happened at the end. Look, you're going to be doing a show.
Yeah, we'll talk
after this ongoing process, and I'm sure that's going to come up. There's no point in delving into it again. It's pointless. But the day after, I seen the reaction, and I seen the online reaction, and you'd be blind not to see it. The only thing is, you get 3 points in that game, and that's 3 wins on the bounce. And you're having a very different outlook on life because you're not seeing the absolute savage calls for the manager to get sacked. Which, look, it's not going to happen. People can shout and bawl and bitch and moan online all they like. It's not going to happen until the end of the season, or at least until after whatever happens in Europe happens in Europe. I for the life of me, can't see it. So there's no point in even, from my point of view, there's no point in dwelling on it and wasting time on it, because it just doesn't help me, doesn't help anything, and it only just adds to frustration. And I've got enough things to be frustrated about at the minute without having to worry about a manager's future. And that'll happen. A decision will be taken on him either towards the end of the season or at the end of the season. Whether he takes the decision himself or someone at the club takes the decision. But it all depends, and Megan's right. We can't afford to be dropping any more points. We're making it difficult for ourselves. We're at that situation now where you need favours. You need City. Well, you need City and United and potentially Villa to drop points.
And Chelsea.
That's what I mean. Yeah, sorry, Chelsea as well. You need the sides above us to drop points. Forget about Arsenal. They're just doing their own thing. But you need those sides to drop points. And we need to go there. And when we play them, we need to get results. Be that draws or wins. We can't afford to lose to these sides that are above us now. And Megan's right. We've got how many games left?
13.
13 left in the league. You're probably talking we need
to get at least 2 points per game to get to sort of the traditional 5th place spot.
Yeah.
So points wise, and we're averaging 1.56.
Yeah, 1.56. You need 2.03 or something like that.
Yeah.
I think you need a minimum of eight wins and 5 draws.
I mean, that seems so impossible right now.
It does. And the only thing I look at tomorrow night and who we're playing and how we played them last time. Dominate a ball. They're good on the counter attack, and they create chances. They live to play on the counter attack, even when they're at home against sides, who are in the the normal big 4 or 5. they do tend to line up with a back four, but it's not. It's like
Mm.
four, but their right side wing back lined up as a midfielder, but he's not. He drops in as a right wing back on the ball when they're off the ball, and they defend in a 5-4-1, and on the ball they attack, leaving three at the back and looking to try to exploit the wings and look to counter quickly. And that's pretty much how they've been at home, and they're unbeaten at home this season.
Yeah.
So, which for a side who's just been promoted is so unusual. Their away form is patchy, big time patchy, but their home form, if they're not picking up wins, they're picking up draws. They're not losing, obviously. So it's going to be a really, really hard night, and it's going to be a game probably won by the odd goal, you know. But Megan, as Megan said there, we can't afford to be dropping any more points. We have to go there and do what no one else has done this season. We need 3 points.
Well, I mean, they're only 3 points behind us. So, with that, again, we can quite quickly slip down this table. We're closer to 10th than we are to 4th right now.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right to call out their record at home. They've picked up 72.2% of all of their points this season at home, which is only bettered by Arsenal, City, and United. They're the only Premier League team yet to lose at home. So that is their 12-game unbeaten run, which is the longest by a promoted team since 1977, 78. That was Forest. But look, the last time we were there, it was a draw, or the last time they were visiting with us, it was a draw. It was one of those matches where I think we'll look back on and we'll say, if we had turned any of those into wins, of those games into wins, we would have been sitting so much better right now. And the fact that I think it was an own goal, that kind of got us that point where it really could have been a loss. What really strikes me when I think back about that game, Kev, is just the complete lack of urgency from our team, and the way that we sat back. And it's something that I wanted to kind of talk to you about, sort of larger scope. So, when we talk about the City game as a whole, one of the things that we can talk about is the pattern of play that we're really established with Slot, where we chatted about this in the post match, and you got some kind of criticism in the chat because a lot of people are like, well, we need to attack. Let's talk through this and try to be grown-ups here. I want to talk about why Arne Slot is choosing to start games so slow, and I want to talk about why that is perhaps not the best thing to be doing long-term for this team. I want to specifically touch on our lack of substitutions, the lack of firepower we have off the bench, the reason we're flagging so late on games. So let's talk about why Slot would start slow first.
Well, you go back to the first 10 minutes of that City game, and we were pressing them high up, and we won the ball back a couple of times as well. We kept them under pressure for a while for the first 10 minutes. Then they had a couple of really good chances. And then you started seeing Semenyo drift off the wings. Mm-hmm. So at the start, Kirkes didn't know what to do. And he was like, I'm sat there playing left back and I'm marking nobody. So then he goes following Semenyo into midfield, which is the right thing to do, by the way. He goes man marking for the rest of the half. I said this at the time, and I got plenty of stick for it, but go back and watch it. Cody Gakpo played most of that first half as a left back when we were defending. Go and watch the game against Newcastle, and Cody Gakpo is Alisson's outball. He can't be Alisson's outball on the halfway line from left back. Can't be in two places at once. So he either doesn't track back and lets Nunes have free reign on the right-hand side so he can be the option to play out with, or he does what he does do and he goes back. And what baffles me about it is there are sides in this league who are better on the ball than we are. So when you've got a side who are better on the ball and creating chances, irrespective of your home or away, the first job is stay in the game. You stay in the game, and when your chances come, you take them. And we did. We took our chance. We had other chances. that we didn't take to get further ahead. So what he did do in the first half worked because we got ahead in the game. And we blew it in the last 5 minutes of normal time. So whether people like it or not, sometimes there are opponents that you're going to play that you're going to have to defend. You're going to have to defend off the ball. And I challenge anyone, go back and watch any of the Klopp games against City at Anfield and go watch first halves. I remember one first half, we were torn to shreds. And it was Phil Foden. And it was a game James Milner played at fullback. And we were absolutely torn apart in the first half. And I think we went in 1-0 down. We come out in the second half and ripped them apart. So you can lose a game in the first 20, 25 minutes. If you go helter-skelter against a side like Man City who can play triangles, overload the midfield, they can create chances and score goals. And you can be 2-3 down before you blink an eyeball. On half an hour, you can be 2-3 down. Game's done. Forget about it. Whereas we gave ourselves a chance to be in it in the second half, come out in the second half, and we played differently. Through midfield, our midfielders carried the ball. Instead of looking quick passes, they carried the ball. Gravenberch especially. He was really good at getting up the pitch, drawing players to him and bringing others into play, getting Wirtz involved. Wirtz was anonymous in the first half. So I get the frustration when people see the scoreline. But if you see that game out and do it properly, you're having a very different conversation. So I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater for the sake of 5 minutes. Irrespective of the table and irrespective of the results, because what he set out to do worked for 85 minutes. Now, Arne Slot can't cross the white line. You asked about the substitutions. When you look behind him, the firepower substitutions, there ain't none. There just ain't none. Chiesa, yeah, okay. Chiesa can come on and give you 15 minutes at the end, maybe. Rio, people bitch and moan when he doesn't come on, and then they do bitch and moan because you're throwing them to the walls in a lost cause. It's like you're still only 1-0 up. You still have to be able to have the work rate to come back and do the other side of the game. He hasn't shown in any of the games that he's got that. So if you're trying to see a game out, you don't bring Rio on. All right. And the other thing, Jones was sat on the sideline for 4 minutes waiting to come on before they scored. The ball didn't go out of play once.
Well, and part of the reason they scored was a miscommunication between Jones and McAllister.
Yeah.
So a part of the reason they scored was basically from a substitution. The reason I asked this is because I was going back. It was actually the Anfield Wrap that kind of was speaking about the result last year. So it was November last year. We end up winning 2-0. And one of the things that we do is very late on, we end up bringing Núñez on. And instead of City being able to kind of come forward and truly attack us and us sit in deep, Núñez gave us the opportunity to basically pin their defenders back several yards, gave them something to think about, and really occupied them in a way that, alleviated a lot of pressure, even though Darwin Núñez wasn't necessarily having a material impact on the scoreline. And I think
maybe the option to go long.
Well, he was an option to go long, but he wasn't the one like putting the ball in the back of the net is what I'm trying to say. But this lack of a player or some players to come off the bench to do just that, to take the pressure off of the Liverpool players as it gets late in games. This isn't a coincidence anymore. This is a pattern of behavior. Yes, we are, stepping on the proverbial rakes or making our own mistakes or, giving them things on silver platters, but we simply don't have the tools or are not using the tools that we have to create a game state at the end of the game that's giving us any sort of hope in hell to defend our lead. So I don't know how many times we need to try to defend a 1-0 lead and have that fail for us to realize that that's not the Liverpool right now. So I think that is kind of the Arne Slot style. We've done that last year, and it was very successful, and people didn't like it, but it worked. I think, unfortunately, we have to come to grips with that is not the way Liverpool can see out games now. And there might just be, for me at least, more of a call to push the attack button a little bit earlier. If you look at that momentum graph that you were just talking about, sort of riding out the first 25 minutes of the game, that is where the momentum actually shifts in this game with City. Right on the 25-minute mark, you start to see an uptick in Liverpool momentum. It's not awesome, but they try. The real uptick happens at halftime.
Yeah.
The big jump is from 50-ish minutes all the way through 60 minutes. So there's a 10-minute spell there where we really put the foot on the gas. And it's
we had about 5 chances on the bounce in that 10-15-minute spell.
Yeah, so it's capped at the end by the Szoboszlai goal at 74 minutes. But that big kind of flurry that we have is really between about 50 minutes to, let's call it 70 minutes. My issue here with this, Kev, is that at 70 minutes, if that flurry doesn't materialize, if that flurry doesn't turn into a goal, so we obviously have the moment of magic with Szoboszlai. That's secondary for me.
Yeah.
But if we can't materialize a goal in that flurry, at 70 minutes, our players are gassed. So our key creative players, our Florian Wirtz, our Hugo Ekitike, anyone that's going to score a goal for us basically is gassed. Mo Salah doesn't have the legs to run anymore. Gakpo doesn't have the legs to run anymore, or he's doing other things. Are we better suited to, I guess I would say, call it like the Everton model that we did earlier this year, where we really went for them in the first half, got 2 goals up. And then, yes, we had an issue. We let a goal in, but because we gave ourselves a bigger buffer and because we kind of gave ourselves more time, is that something that we need to look at going forward?
I think for that particular game, I think he got it right, because unlike an Everton or the vast majority of sides in the Premier League, City have 3 players up front in that game that can really tear you apart. And not just that, you have players behind them who can find them. Whereas when you're playing an Everton or you're playing someone else, it's not so much the players they got up front, it's their ability to find the right pass at the right time under pressure. The City players can. And they played through our press more often than not. When they started playing through our press, that's when they started to get chances, because we were caught up the pitch a few times.
Does that press worry you? I don't mean to interrupt you, but that... especially given the fact that we had 3 days completely off. We had a full week off compared. I mean, granted, they rested a few against Newcastle, but they still had a game midweek.
I think the difference between the way that Arne Slot presses, and it was evident last year from the very start, and under Klopp, is we're doing it with 1 player less. Slot and Pep Linders had us setting up to press with 5. And Slot is pressing with 4 and having an extra player back as cover. And the proof is the pudding is in the eating is how many times do we get played through and the opponents score from? There isn't many. I can't think of too many goals that we've conceded where they've gone from keeper right the way through. So it's catch-22. I honestly think that we're not suited to be pressing at the minute. And that's the truth. The main reason being is that we have 13 fit senior outfield players that he trusts and will play. That you can't ask these guys to press for game in, game out, and then expect them not to flag. Don't expect them to flag in the last 20 minutes of games or last 10 minutes, or concentration goes, or someone makes a mistake, or a head drop somewhere. Dominic Szoboszlai doesn't push out when he should. It's where simple mistakes come late in games is usually mental fatigue as well as physical fatigue. And how many times have we seen a mistake by a last ditch tackle not making it because the player's late? And they're late not because they don't want to get there. They're late because their legs won't get them there. Well, someone said it in the chat too. Yeah, I know. Yeah, someone said it in the chat earlier, talking about the January window. There isn't one single person on this channel or the vast majority of channels out there who didn't say at the end of the transfer window, we've left ourselves short. And it wasn't just talking about a defender. It was about the fact that you needed to bring somebody in to take the weight off the other 13 players who are having to cover the minutes across all of these games that we're playing. I mean, we're going into a game tomorrow night. They're going to have to make changes. And it's not just because of the Szoboszlai injury. McAllister looks like he's sucking on gas. He looks done, you know? So it's like there's only there's only 2 or 3 players on that bench that I think he'd be prepared to start tomorrow night. And I think he'll start all 3. I think he'll make the 3 changes.
So you think Robertson comes in for Kirkes? Yeah. Do you think Endo or Jones goes to right back?
I think Jones comes in for McAllister, and I think Endo
goes to right back.
Yeah, I think Endo goes to right back.
Okay, so I mean that pretty much.
Assuming Mo Salah isn't gone for his grandfather's.
Yeah. So because that wasn't brought up in the press conference, and I promise we'll get to the press conference right now, we don't know what's going on with Salah because it does seem like his father passed away, I believe, on Monday. And it looks like that was confirmed by his uncle, but we don't know if that means he's going to be away or he's going to be around for this game. That we've got no confirmation on that whatsoever.
One sec. I just want to.
Yes, of course.
Hang on. Pierce is saying here, you know who didn't say we left ourselves one short? Arne Slot. If you want Arne Slot to get sacked the day after he says what he really thinks, then, be my guest. But if you honestly expect any manager in the Premier League to come out and say what he thinks and not get sacked for it, you're off your fucking game.
We've seen 2 managers get sacked for this.
There was 2 managers sacked who come out and gave their opinion whether they liked it or not, and they got sacked because they had to go at the managers, the people above them. If you think Arne Slot is going to come out and have a pop at Richard Hughes, Michael Edwards, or Billy Hogan, you're off your fucking rocker. So don't even bother expecting him to do it because he just fucking won't. I mean, it's just that kind of nonsense drives my fucking goat.
Well, I also want to counter that by saying that there were a number of times where Arne Slot basically said that without saying it. Where he said, I would love to make changes, but if I look at my bench, all that I have there is, under 21 players. Like, he is saying the things, but he's also doing it in the most diplomatic way possible. Exactly. So, yes, he's not going to come out
and shoot his mouth off.
Well, he's not going to do that. I mean, that's not who he is. That's not his personality, no matter what. But like he has come out and said, I mean, there's a lot of people criticizing him for his handling of Calvin Ramsey, and it got brought up again today. Yeah. And basically the quote was, we
got a result, by the way. Chelsea 2, Leeds 2.
Yes.
Everton 1, Bournemouth 2.
Okay, those are both good for us.
Yeah, at the moment it's Spurs 1, Newcastle 2, and Manchester United 0, West Ham 1.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know that game was on. All right, let's keep an eye on those out of the corner of our eye and get back to this. So I was talking about Calvin Ramsey. There was a lot of criticism of how he handled Calvin Ramsey, I don't know, maybe a month ago, where he basically said, that there are several players that I will choose before Calvin Ramsey. Today, he made a quote in the press conference where he basically said, whenever we lose, the players that are on the bench suddenly become the best players available. I want to just have a reality check on Calvin Ramsey here. So, although we saw him in one game,
at wingback,
Calvin Ramsey was basically shipped out of the club last year to the point where they basically forfeited the homegrown status of Calvin Ramsey because they saw no future in him. So I hate the way that it was handled. I think that it was a really dumb decision kind of for him in general to lose that homegrown status. But Liverpool Football Club decided last year when they shipped him off to Scotland that he wouldn't have a future at this club. So he's here because of basically, the loan wasn't available for him. They were looking for a loan over the January window and they weren't able to get it. They would have sent him out. I honestly don't think that it was a matter of him being right back cover at all. I think that the club genuinely feel like he is not at the level required. So we haven't seen him at the Premier League level, and all of us can kind of hope and dream that he is a fantastic right back. But until we actually see that, come to fruition, it's all just in our heads. It really is in our heads. So I just want to kind of put that out there. With regards to wanting more players, he said he wanted more players. He said he wanted to strengthen the squad.
Exactly. Arne Slot sees Calvin Ramsey in training, not just in training, but around the club. And he's seen him there all season. He's had multiple opportunities to play him. He could have played him at Barnsley, even though he had two fullbacks fit. Salah wasn't available, so Frimpong would have been playing in a more advanced role. He could have played Ramsey behind him. He didn't. He sees him for the under-21s. He gets the reports back from the under-21s. He sees him in training. Sees him every day. If he thought he was good enough, he'd play him and he'd put Szoboszlai back in the midfield. He doesn't, so he won't. So people need to build a bridge and get the fuck over it.
Well,
that's about as blunt as I can be about it. Because
I think, you know what? Sometimes people need bluntness.
At the end of the day, he was a £5 million gamble who got a horrific injury and who was really unfortunate. Never really ripped it up at any loan spell that he'd been on. And he's come back to the club and he's there. That's about as much as you can say about him. And I think Arne Slot, for once, it was nice and refreshing to see a manager a few months ago come out and tell the fucking truth about a player. Because look, and you can turn around and you can say, look, that's Arne Slot telling his bosses, I need a player I can fucking use. And in Calvin Ramsey, I don't have that. I am sorry.
Well, the proof is in the pudding, as they say, in terms of, he's not playing specific players like Ramsey. He's not playing specific players like Chiesa because he knows what he's looking for. Now, look, is he going to have his hand forced? Probably. Are we in a pickle in this situation where even if he doesn't think Chiesa is good enough, should he be playing? Maybe. I'd make an argument, honestly, that I think you could maybe rotate someone like a Nioni more often. You could maybe rotate Rio for a few more minutes. I don't think Rio's a starter. I don't think Nioni's ready to be a starter either. I think that all the calls for Chiesa, Nioni, and Rio to be starters are just bonkers. I don't think Endo has the legs to be a starter for maybe more than one game. We might see it this week. But for more than one game, forget about it. So it's just the reality of the situation. Kev, there were a few more kind of press conference things that popped up. And the one that's creating the headlines basically was the final quote of the whole thing, which basically said, let me find it. It'd be helpful if I had my information in front of us. He was asked on whether...
I can't be asked to bother. I can't even be asked to bother, John. I really fucking can't. Open your ears and listen to what I fucking said, John.
Jono, the reason that he can't open his mouth to his bosses and not be a yes man is because Arne Slot was hired to work within a structure at Liverpool Football Club. He is a head coach and he works underneath bosses ahead of him. And it's the same reason why I can't go up to my boss and say, fuck you, I don't like the time that I start my work. I can't do that. If you can do that, I mean, I don't know. I don't know where you work. But we all have certain restrictions that we have to work under. Now, do I like what time I start work? Again, this is just a hypothetical conversation.
No, you start work at stupid o'clock. So
but no, it's like, that's not the issue. It's just that we all have to work within our constraints that we're hired under. And Arne Slot knew exactly what he was signing up for. And, he has a good relationship with Richard Hughes. He doesn't want to throw him under the bus. Like, as much as Richard Hughes deserves to be criticized, as much as probably Arne Slot does for this season and for the squad that he's been left with. Like, do you want a manager that's just going to run his mouth off and start tearing apart the structure of your club? Because that's how you end up in situations like Manchester United where things are, falling apart. Now, park Manchester United where they are at the moment. But, Emmett makes the point here. Slot hasn't opened his mouth. Neither did Klopp. There are things that Klopp probably wanted to say. He literally got in such a headbutting competition with Michael Edwards that Michael Edwards left the club. But that was never said in public. You say these things in private, behind closed doors, like adults, like proper functioning companies. You don't say those things in public. There's no need for it. Like that gets handled behind closed doors, and I'm totally happy with that, honestly. I don't want us to air our dirty laundry as a club in front of the media at all. And if that means that we're not privy to information or we're not hearing what we want to hear from a manager, sorry, suck it up, Buttercup, because honestly, like you're in a situation where like we're just listeners from the outside. Like anyways, I'm just going to park it there. I have other things to get to. I want to talk about the last couple of quotes from the press conference, because if we want to complain about Arne Slot, then let's talk about these quotes. So he says on whether he has to ensure Champions League qualification to make sure this is an acceptable season. He says, yes, if we don't have Champions League football, it has definitely not been a acceptable season. And then he goes on, and this is the hit piece. On the club's model being reliant on Champions League participation and the impact that failing to qualify would have. He says, quote, that's what I said. That's that when I arrived here, we could only sign Federico Chiesa, and that was after a Europa League season. So that does have an enormous impact on the way this club is run. That is clear. So we are completely aware, and I am completely aware of that. So what's your reaction to that? Do you think it's being blown out of proportion?
I think you and me have both done the maths on it, and I don't think it makes a material difference to the summer window plans, but it doesn't help them either. I think you're not going to turn around and say, if we finish outside the Champions League spots, it's somehow anywhere near okay. It's not. But at the same time, it's one of those things that it's one of those dead end questions, because if he says anything other than what he says, he'll be pulled apart left, right, and center for it by either side. So there's no right answer to it. At the end of the day, for a club like Liverpool, irrespective of the model, qualifying for the Champions League is the bare minimum requirement. Okay, now. Didn't happen for us under Jurgen Klopp every year. There were years where we ended up where we were in the Europa League, and that has its benefits, not financial benefits, but it does have benefits.
I mean, if you're talking about it, like again, I'm not saying I want to be in the Europa League.
Neither am I.
Super, super clear. But if you're talking about bringing in 6 more players, and you need to bed them in, it's not the worst situation in terms of using it as a coaching tool.
That's about the only.
That's it.
That's about the only benefit to it. But it's not. It shouldn't hamper the club's ability to be able to go and spend in the summer window, because if you go and take out, and people are going to hate this net spend shit, but you take the net spend of Liverpool Football Club and spread it out over the last 2 years. Bear in mind, contracts are paid over the length of a contract unless it's a buyout clause. So I think it was 87 million euro per window between last summer and the summer before, considering the summer before we did absolutely fucking nothing. So it's not the be all and end all for it to be in the Champions League. It definitely fucking helps. I mean, Emmett's saying here, Billy Hogan is on record saying they always have a Champions League plan and a Europa League plan. They aren't a million miles apart. Look at if you go on, there's a couple of football financial podcasts out there. Some of them are very, very good. And when they talk about Liverpool, they talk about our headroom of what we have available to us. Like we could have spent, I think our headroom in the January window was, we could have spent in and around 150 million and still been within PSR. So, and that doesn't include any potential earnings this season. So it's the club has headroom. Okay, and they might have to dip into it to be able to get back into the Champions League, because everybody else around us is going to be improving. So Thursday, Sunday is hard. We know that, but it's not hard to bring quality players in without Champions League football. Also, retaining the players you have and extending contracts. It shouldn't be a problem if the players buy into the fact that it's 1 year.
It's also it's not necessarily next year that'll be impacted. So when you look at the accounts, right now we're getting Champions League money in through the door. And so when it comes to spending in June, we're going to use the money that we've earned throughout this campaign.
Yeah.
And so, Daniel makes the point. We were in the Europa League when we signed McAllister, Szoboszlai, and Gravenberch. That was right before we entered into the Europa League. So, that shows that the right players will want to come to this club, regardless if you're in Champions League or Europa League. But it also shows that because of the fact we were in the Champions League the season prior, we were able to use those funds to buy these players.
Exactly.
So what happens, and again, it might have happened anyways, is that next summer, like the following summer of 2027, if we're in Europa League for 2026 to 2027, the summer of 2027 is the one that's going to be impacted financially for who you can buy.
But that means, and the idea would have always been to reshape the squad over 2 windows, over last summer and the summer to come, which is going to come out of current Champions League funds. So what you would need to do in 27 probably isn't as much as what you think. So we'll park that shit for another night.
I feel like we probably shouldn't be.
We're going down rabbit holes.
So we really shouldn't. So let's get back to the game. So let's talk about we talked about our squad. So just going front to back, do you think Alisson stays in goal after his snafu?
Yeah.
Okay, Alisson stays in goal. We have Konate, Virgil, center backs. You said Robertson comes in.
I think Robertson and Endo come in.
Okay.
Nothing to do with Kerkez. I thought Kerkez did. I said he was our man of the match.
I agree.
I think defensively he had a really good day against the team. I think he done as best he could. But I wouldn't mind Robertson starting this one. I would play Jones and McAllister in the middle of the park.
Can I just counter that real quick? Do you think that it makes more sense to start Robertson this weekend in the cup game?
I think you could do both.
Okay.
I think
so you're going to rest Kerkez for almost 2 weeks?
It's a Wednesday, Saturday, and then you're off the following Saturday. He's still getting used to the 2-week schedule as well. When you come back in, you're coming back into Premier League, Champions League, Premier League, Champions League, all the way through for however long we're going to be in it. So, and he's not used to that. When he was at Bournemouth, it was Saturday. Oh, we're playing Sunday. Oh, we're playing Saturday again. You know what I mean? It was like, unless it was the FA Cup, he was playing 1 game a week, and he's still young.
Okay.
So you've got Andy Robertson there. He's perfectly capable. Let him do his job.
All right.
He wouldn't be the problem. I wouldn't mind playing Jones in front of McAllister instead of McAllister because I think Macca is just goosed.
I just don't think McAllister's suited to the deeper midfield lying role. I just don't think. I don't think that he. If I was to pick between McAllister and Jones, who can play in a double pivot, it's going to be Jones. Yeah. I don't think so. What you gain from McAllister is not more. Maybe last year it was, but this year it's not more than what Jones can give you in terms of control.
Yeah. So the front 3 would be the front 3, assuming Salah's available. Yep. Florian Wirtz,
in the
Cody Gakpo, and Hugo up top.
Okay.
And Sunderland will probably go with a 4-4-2 on the ball. Off the ball will be a 5-4-1. They're very direct. Brian Broby loves running into spaces. He's strong, quick, but there's no surprises for Virgil in what Brian Broby does.
No.
It's just a case of what are they going to do with the left side if they go with their left side. If they go with Taibbi, Ronaldo will.
Taibbi's out, and so is Xhaka. So what that's about, a big one.
Yeah. What
Xhaka
about
is still out, and
Traore?
Traore is out. Who?
Adringa.
He's gone.
He's gone, is he?
Yeah, they loaned him.
Okay.
That was like a last-minute loan. They felt like they didn't need him. So he's not there. And then Granit Xhaka is out with an ankle injury.
Yeah, I knew Xhaka was out.
Tabi is out with an ankle injury, and then Traore is out with a knee injury.
Yeah. I mean, you'd assume Lefay will play.
So I think the lineup will probably be Royce, Mukiele, Ballard, Alderete, Ronaldo, Siddiqui, Diarra, Hume, Lefay, Talby, and Broby.
Yeah. So, I mean, Hume is a right back, but he's more of an attacking right back. That's why they have him listed as a right mid. But he'll drop back into a wing back role on the left hand side. So really, it's going to be. You're really going to be I think we're going to be really looking for Florian Wirtz. He's going to be the one middle of the park to try to dictate play, bring others into play. I think we will dominate the ball, but it's just being aware of the counter attack. And I think the fact that Endo comes in probably forces everyone else on the right hand side to concentrate a hell of a lot more on their defensive positioning, especially Konate, because they won't want to isolate him. So yeah, look, we'll have to go and do what no one else has done this season. We have to go and win. But I think if we do win, it'll be by. I think we'll win. I actually think we will win. And it sounds shocked, but yeah, no, I think
do sound shocked. Scoreline prediction?
2-1.
Okay.
Wouldn't be surprised if we do score from a set piece. I fancy Hugo. I think Flo and Hugo. If Flo can get on the ball and look to pick passes, Hugo has the movement to be able to give Mukiele and Ballard trouble in between the two of them. And they can be caught in transition when they attack, because they do flood forward. They are very direct for the set pieces, long throws, especially Mukiele has a good long throw.
Yeah.
So you have to be aware of that. That's why I wouldn't mind Robertson starting, because he's got his good area presence. Endo loves a header as well, let's be honest. He loves sticking his head on everything. So yeah, it's just mind the back door and look to create when you got chances. The thing is, Mo Salah is so off form that if all things being equal, this was the game in the Anfield game that he was dropped. And he came on at halftime. Came on at halftime. All things being equal, if you're looking at it as you wouldn't be starting him if you had another option. And we've seen what happened when Chiesa started. He just didn't do himself any favors.
Yeah, we can't be making 4 changes for this game.
No, but
I think honestly, I'd be surprised if he goes more than. Honestly, I'd be shocked if he changes more than 2.
Yeah, he's one of these players that I'm desperate. I was desperate for him to be successful. Desperate, because I thought I wanted him. I wanted him when he was flying for Italy in the Euros, and I think every club in Europe wanted him at the time, and everyone was desperate for him to succeed. Would have been the bargain of the century if we could get him back to his best. It's just not going to happen for him, and he'll probably be going in the summer. But if he could have shown when he started, he had the ability to at least be a live threat from the start, there's every chance Salah wouldn't be starting, because he's not offering you enough. He isn't. And as much as great as he was for us, the drop off from him this season has been off the scale. I've never seen it. I was chatting to someone today in work. I've never seen a drop off in a top player as much in 1 6 months.
You know what it reminds me of is what's his name? Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, after he signed his Arsenal contract. And I'm not saying it's because he signed a contract,
no.
But that drop off was just about as pronounced. That's the last kind of big, massive one that I can think of.
Yeah, but he was nowhere near on the highs of Salah. That's what I mean. That's right. From Salah, Salah's still one of the greatest players to ever play in the Premier League.
I don't think that's ever in question. He'll have that status forever.
Yeah,
it's just he doesn't have that status this year at all.
The only thing that he does offer you when he is on the pitch, and you'll be talking about this in about 10 minutes' time, is he gives you the threat and scares the shit out of players like Mark Guehi.
Yeah.
And he will get it. If he gets the opportunity, he scares the shit out of centre-backs when he runs at them. So he always carries that threat, even if he's on the pitch. They can't ignore him. Ignore him at your peril. But they do try to defend one-on-one against him. Now, Hall did a fantastic job for Newcastle in it. No, I don't think it was. I genuinely don't think it was.
It's a shout, though. It's a shout.
Yeah, but the only reason that I don't think it was because I don't ever see Fabinho at the heights of what Mo Salah was, especially last year.
Yeah.
That's a possibility, Dan.
I want to touch on this. So the quote from Slot basically says is Joe has not trained with us. He said this morning, I'm expecting him to train with us for the first time today. Indeed, Joe is not ready to start. Indeed, if Joe is not ready to start, then we are missing 4 players who could have played in that position. But Curtis Jones and Wataru Endo also played in that position this year. Notice he doesn't mention Ramsey.
No.
So we've had 6 different right backs this season. So it's a maybe. It's a maybe. But we'll see. I think I probably just want to wrap this up with final thoughts, Kev, because
One sec. Daniel, I don't know what's up with the chat, but we're seeing it. So don't worry about
we
it.
can see your comments.
You
mentioned that as well. There's something going on with YouTube where it's saying there's an error message. So I apologize for that. That's outside of our control.
Yeah, we are seeing it though.
Yeah, we can see your comments come in. So if it's saying that you can't, we can see them. Okay, final thoughts about kind of you can wrap up sort of Liverpool as a whole, where we're going. You can talk about just this game, whatever you want to say at the end of the show.
We'll talk about this game alone. I mean, given the results of how they're going at the minute, this is a massive, important game for us. We need 3 points irrespective. Okay, I still say, look, losing to Man City is not the end of the world. Okay, plenty of times, plenty of sides lose to Man City. It's not beyond an end all. But with Chelsea dropping points tonight, Manchester United potentially dropping points, knowing Ireland, now they'll go on.
That's me knocking on wood, by the way.
Yeah. But look, there's points to be had. There's 13 games to play. The only consistent thing about this season is nobody's consistent. Nobody's hammering anybody. Everybody's capable of dropping points against everybody. There is no such thing as a safe place in this league. I don't see Chelsea or Manchester United going on a run of 8-9 games on the bench. I just don't see it. I don't see Liverpool being anywhere near as consistent as we need to be able to go above them and get away. But I think we can catch them. And we have to play them both. So we have to be competitive and stay with them as long as we can, get ahead of them if possible. But when we play them, those games are going to be fucking massive.
Oh, yeah. And sadly, we play them all back to back to back. So, and we talk about Brentford as well. So we go Villa and United and Chelsea and Brentford all as our last 4 games this season. So
you know what? By then, we could be in a completely different mindset.
I hope that's the case. We could have Isak back. Like things could change. Things could look rosy. We don't know. Look, I like the positivity from Megan here, and I'm going to kind of close out with this positivity. Yeah. So Megan says that she would like to see Jones in midfield, Endo at right back, and bring Robbo in. We need the 3 points, 2-1, Hugo and Virgil. I would love to see a captain's performance from Virgil.
Megan, you're reading my mind, girl. You're absolutely reading my mind.
I appreciate that kind of positive idea, and I think we're going to close with that. That's it for our kind of pre-match. There is a second show today. So the second show is over on Patreon here. We don't want to push our Patreon to anyone that doesn't want to join. We always want to have these free shows on here. The show that's on Patreon is completely unrelated to this show. So it's our Good Process show where we go through all of the refereeing decisions over the last week, particularly in the Premier League. Some go against us, some go against other teams. It's a pretty sort of universal spread where we just sort of talk about the PGMOL being shit. We are using clips and comparisons. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, it's over there if you want. But again, no pressure whatsoever to join. We will be back tomorrow with our free post-match reaction. And yeah, that's it for tonight. I want to thank Kev so much for showing up. And even though he doesn't have power in his house and he's constantly, videoing from the dark over there, he's still here showing up.
Here, look, I said some light in the situation. I just don't like that big light up behind my head.
Just teasing you.
It look like I got a halo. I'm not a laser, really.
No, we're good. Look, guys, let's just try to keep the positivity. I know it doesn't feel that much like there's that much there, but things can change. Football is a crazy sport, and every day something different happens. So up the Reds, hoping for a win, and we will be back tomorrow. Thank you so much, and thanks again in the chat. Kev, can you take us out of here, please?
Good night.
Bye, guys.